Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues. Guess if you ain't at the table, you on the menu. And I'm that spitter, baby. They don't want you to see, but everybody's south of Capitol Hill's rocking with me. Boys smoke the trays and plan to getting their life together. I'm comfortable with my role, so I'm like, whatever. Me? I ain't got a job, but I work hard. And you don't work hard, but you got a job. The irony is I'm judged while you feel the applause. I'm slept on, that's why I had to set this alarm. My dudes is armed, I'm armed with this arm charm. Body banging like she got that cream from Barry Bonds. Yeah.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
That Dre season is here, a real hitter with a mic, I'm everything that they fear. With that hood ain't the same, I was all on their ass, I'm level-headed. So yo, my dudes love when I spaz, and I'm so over Seattle's passive-aggressive attitude. They don't call you back, what they really saying is F you. While I'm from the same place, I move at a different pace. I prefer if you just said it to my face, damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Average dudes with they average spit, writing average rhymes, knocking average chicks. The closer I get, I can feel the people starting to shift. I'm loyal to a fault, and everybody can't come with. Rap's a rich man's game, I'm only playing with change. They bang models and singers, I'm knocking my own flame, I'm different. The crowd, I move with the chosen few. Black thoughts, I could be the front man for the roots. No diamonds and gold, I'm on my sticks and stones. If we can see your panty line, you should have on a thong. My team is strong, through this fire we forged a bond. And they already know what it is when I get on. To the hearse, party like it's December 31st. When I'm on my deathbed, I probably cracking my nurse. You ain't got the bars to compete. I'm a verbal athlete, deflating these boys so they say that I cheat. Damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Yeah. I should probably start by apologizing for the long wait, man. You know, I know I be tripping. But I'm not just a rapper, I'm an artist. And, you know, my creative process is a little bit different than most. Nonetheless, I want to welcome everybody out to the Dre's Experience. I got TCF in the building. My whole camp's here with me. I got the band in here laying this cool-ass vibe. And I'm Seattle's own. Let's get into it.
I say to you, community, let's take up space. We weren't supposed to make it through the vast Atlantic or back to the door of no return. So shine like the gold in our skin and the first porch light ever lit. 'Cause we lit and we stay lit. It is with love that everything we touch is ablaze with brilliance. We made jazz and had the blues so hard we're still nodding our heads, but this time we sampled What a Wonderful World. What a way to escape the pain and revel in joy. To the Marsha P. Johnsons who woke up our pride. To the Jimi Hendrix who burned his guitar. For the tennis-playing sisters, for those who didn't make it. And I promise not to fake it. We still want our 40 acres, a mule, and reparations. To the barbers and stylists who still carry on tradition. For the laughter through the tough times, the dead and the living that we hold sacred. To be a people who built empires out of sticks and stones and turned the names they called us into songs. We are still here.
Grand Rising and good morning, everybody out there. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. Happy Wednesday to all of you, middle of the week. And we have a pretty short show for you today, but really, we're just happy that you guys are with us. Thank you so much for supporting us. I'm going to start it off right now because I'm flying solo for this part of the show, but I will be bringing in my guest co-host today later on, Justin Carter of Capitol Hill Seattle blog. we got to start it off right. So we want to welcome you first off to the Morning Update Show and send a huge thank you and shout out to our partners over at the South Seattle Emerald and at KBCS Radio 91.3 over at Bellevue College. Also, want to make sure that we remind you guys that we are available everywhere that you find podcasts. We got Spotify, SoundCloud right there, but Spotify is my link of choice. And so you can find us there on Spotify, iTunes, Google Music, pretty much anywhere that you find podcasts. And, again, if you have, where you're driving in and it's easier for you to listen in, we're making it easily available and accessible to all of you. So check out our podcast. Just look up Converge Media Network, and you guys will be able to find the Morning Update Show there. Keeping this reminder alive, the vaccine is still readily available. Not only the vaccine, but testing is everywhere. And there's a lot of different regulations that are happening right now, and we're all learning together. So if you guys are looking for information, I know Curtis is putting the link right there so you guys can find a site that's near you if you are ready to get vaccinated. But they also have people on board to answer any questions you may have about the vaccine. We know that there's a lot of questions out there, and public health officials are ready and willing to sit there and really just kind of talk some of you through it. If you need someone to come to your home instead of you going out in public, they will also do that. So just know that King County is making the vaccine readily available. Again, making it available for you to get the testing. Now, a lot of places that you travel to, particularly outside of the country, are not only asking that you be vaccinated, but that you also show proof of a negative COVID test within 24 hours. So now you guys have to look up some rapid testing sites, but they are available throughout King County. Check that link and get the information that you need. I want to go ahead and bring in my guest, my co-host, man. I've been able to host this show with Justin Carter several times throughout the lifetime of our show. And so he's definitely tried and true as one of our guest co-hosts. What's up, Justin?
Good morning. How's it going?
Hey, doing well. Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Yeah, busy time for me, but I'm happy to come here and share some of the stories from District 3 in Capitol Hill.
Absolutely. And always, I think, those stories are near and dear to our hearts. And so I'm so glad that you could be on with me today. I know we're going to start with one story that is very close to all of us here at Converge. Omari's mother, unfortunately was, experienced a hate crime. Won't say a victim because she is very victorious in this. And yesterday she did a walkthrough of the exact spot where she was assaulted. Let's go ahead and put up Omari's tweet here. He was putting the information out there. Community came to her aid, came to support this walk. I was out there. It was beautiful to see people coming out, media coming out to check in on, her saying, look, we're going to be victorious here. And I know that there may not be a lot of audio around it, but she was saying, look, I'm taking my own victory back here in this space. I'm going to reclaim this street. And it was a beautiful thing. Justin, any words there? Any thoughts?
For sure. I first experienced her power, I'll say, community meetings maybe 10 years ago in the Central District. And community meetings can just sap the life out of everything in the room. The city officials will be there and trying to keep things calm and just move through slide decks and those things. And I noticed this voice of someone who was not going to take that kind of a conversation, who was going to elevate the discussion to actually maybe getting some things done. And that was her. And so it's interesting as the years have gone through the city, and now my connection with your work and with Omari's, to have that in the background. Those are the voice. That's her voice that I hear is her being an advocate and a powerful speaker for so many different communities, and really bringing truths and bringing putting power on the defensive sometimes, and that's great. And in this case, no way, a victim, that's definitely not the word for her. She's pushing back and making sure that that hate and intolerance like that just isn't going to be tolerated in this city.
Absolutely. And it's really putting anybody on notice who's looking to cause that kind of hate crime or discriminatory action. Reverend Walden is a beloved elder in our community. And so I am not surprised that people said, answer the call when she said, hey, come and walk with me. We have a short video here, too, of her actually claiming that block and walking with community members alongside her. Here she is, making sure that people are there. And honestly, she was so bold in these moments. And I gotta say that she raised her fist at one point, Justin, and said, look, I am claiming victory. And it was just really, it was so warming. And, when you have elders who are still so plugged in and connected with their community, I mean, she really exemplifies that. People came out. My brother right there, G Prez, kneeled to one knee and just let her know how much he loved her and cared for her. I mean, people really were expressing their love and care. And, I know that originally when this happened, a lot of folks in community were really expressing their concern. We're still looking for the assailant here, the one who actually caused the harm. We're still looking for them. And, one of the things that I love about her being out here was to make sure that they're on notice. These kinds of acts will not go unnoticed, and honestly, they will get their just due. And so I'm thankful that community members really enveloped her. But before we get any more comments here, we also have a clip here from the news actually going over this exact moment with Reverend Walden.
But through all of that, I'm going to keep my humanity. I will never, ever, ever go down to the level of the enemy or the people who hate me. Never.
Amen.
I will never, ever, ever crawl on my belly. I will never, ever treat somebody the way they've treated me. It's my principle, it's my character, and it's my training. My grandmother taught me to never be a hater. Best thing she ever taught me. Her first husband got lynched by some white people. But she told me, you'll never be a hater. I walk through life, I will never waste my time hating white people. Never. And I don't care what happens, I will never go there. Never.
It's I think a lot of people might get it honest. To see why I get it honest, there's a lot of people who saw a lot of this footage and like, man, how come you're not more vicious and you're not more this, you're not more that? And I tell them, man, like, hate don't dwell in my heart. You know what I'm saying? Like, I make my moves, believe me, but it's not hate that gets me out of the bed every morning. It's
For me, it's love. What gets me out of bed every morning is the little children. That we don't see them at the bus stop right now, but we would. They got bright eyes. I work for the children because you know what? They are so idealistic.
This is a beautiful time. I remember when Omari was able to sit there with his mother and talk about all of the police brutality and the police violence that he faced out there in the protest movement, and connected with her lifelong message of never succumbing to those same tactics that others have deployed on us as Black community, on her family. To have such a legacy of a strong message, it's really clear in the ways that I've been able to see Omari move. And so, that was her right here on the Morning Update show months ago, talking about how she would never succumb to those same kind of tactics. And it was clear just yesterday as she reclaimed this space and just simply walked across the street, the same spot where she was assaulted. She pointed it out to all of us community members who were around. There was photographers there and news there. But honestly, this was a great example of her doing exactly what she said months ago that she would never do. She never came out and talked negatively against this person. She did not succumb to the same kind of tactics. Justin, we need more people like Reverend Walden out here in the streets.
For sure, and it is good to see her power again and to see it in her city. It's not just the Central District; it's all of Seattle, and it was great to see her back and reclaiming that spot in the city and in her city.
Absolutely. Well, we have some more stories coming from Justin Carter after this short break. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
Hey guys, Besa Gordon here, and before heading to Belize, Trey Holiday and I had to make sure we linked up with our good friends over at Market Street Shoes to, of course, grab a few things for the trip. From bags to socks, shoes, sunglasses, earrings, and more. Before going on any trip, make sure you stop at Market Street Shoes. Trust me, you'll find just what you need to make your trip not only enjoyable, but fashionable.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap-ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
Pacific Northwest Ballet is thrilled to be back on stage with your favorite holiday tradition, the Nutcracker. Brighten your holidays with this timeless tale, performed by PNB's incredible company of dancers to the live magic of the PNB Orchestra, playing Tchaikovsky's classic score. Treat your loved ones to the Nutcracker at Seattle Center's McCaw Hall. Tickets and health and safety information at pnb.org.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday, and joining me today is my guest co-host, Justin Carter of Capitol Hill Seattle Blog. Oh, all right, Justin. I mean, look, we have a whole segment here where we're going to go a little bit more into the Shama Sawant election, which we know was held last night. I'm going to let you take the lead here, man. Tell us where we're at, what happened, what landed last night.
Well, let's go a lot more. I mean, Tuesday night was the time. Ballots had to be in by 8 p.m. last night. And so the thing to remember in all this is that the voting is done. The ballots are in, and this is all about the count now. And so Tuesday night, the first count came in from King County elections. And the biggest surprise, really, for a lot of us covering it was how many ballots were counted in the first drop. King County elections typically, in the first count, you have to be cautious with drawing too many conclusions, and you still should be cautious in this race. But the drop on Tuesday night was much larger and represented a much larger proportion. It was around 32,000 votes were counted, and the expectation now is, there's about 9,000 ballots only left to count. So a lot of the race is accounted for at this point, and the yes camp, the votes that would recall Shama Sawant, that's currently in the lead with about 53% of the vote. In our headline here on CapitolHillSeattle.com, we refer to that as a commanding lead, which is so it's so challenging to kind of describe this kind of a situation, because it is a race. It is a battle, but it's not like there's still now voters to convince or anything like that. This is just about tallying up what already happened. So all the get out the vote efforts from the Shama Solidarity team, all the grassroots voting centers, the printing of ballots and those kinds of things, that part of the fight is over and done. And what we're moving into now is kind of two things. One, we're going to watch the turnout. King County elections is expecting, like I said, about 9,000 more ballots. So that put us around 53% turnout in the district, which isn't terrible, especially given what a strange time of the year having an election fall in mid-December is. And we're also going to watch how much of a turnaround that get out the vote effort can create. Tuesday night, Sawant talked about her past results. If you look, especially like at 2019 is a classic example where election day totals, her challenger was going to defeat Sawant if you went by those first 8 counts. And each day, subsequent counts, Sawant's campaign made up ground and then totally reversed course the total history really of her time in politics here by in the end winning handily against her opponent. And so she referred to that victory last night in her speech at Chop Suey here on Capitol Hill as her supporters gathered to see the first results. But the math this time is much different. We're talking about a much smaller number of ballots in play and left to be counted. And so the turnaround has to be even more substantial to win, to retain her seat, for no to come out victorious in this. Basically, about 62% of the remaining ballots need to fall in the no camp. And that would be a really big number. That's a really major challenge. One of the things that's probably going to come into play is challenge ballots. That happens disproportionately to younger voters, more transient voters, folks that move a lot. You can have challenges over everything, lots of times over signatures. When I was young, my signature changed all the time. You remember sitting in classrooms, maybe practicing your signature and getting a different stylistic approach. People, when they're younger, tend to have just more issues with their ballots. And that could also be a real factor if we're coming down to a count that really could come down to maybe only hundreds of votes. That's going to be a big deal if we start having to toss ballots because of things like challenge signatures. And the next part of the ground game will really then transition to like helping folks come back and repair those ballots. Because if your signature is challenged, you should check it out. Go to King County elections and look for your ballot information and see if your ballot was accepted. And if it wasn't, find out why, and you can get your vote fixed so your voice is heard. That's a lot of details. So tell me, given all that, like, does that all make sense? What else can I tell you about the status of things here as we have a really dramatic moment in District 3 politics?
This is very dramatic. And we're, I think the history that we had to go off of was the 2019 election, and understanding that, there was a narrow margin even then in terms of someone pulling off the victory. But I think that, we've been talking about how this is really telling the changing demographics right there in the district. And I think it's important to note that, because this is something that seems like there's almost two sides in terms of the demographics that are there. You have folks that are really looking for, new progressive measures, and you have others that say, look, some of this may be too much too soon. And I think that the votes here kind of speak to that demographic a lot. I mean, if you're talking about 62% of 9,000 coming in to now, go for Sawant so that Sawant could keep her seat, that is historic. And Justin, have we ever seen that kind of sway? I mean, when we think about the history of the ways that votes come in, that would be something that I think is pretty unique.
Yeah, even in the victory over Egan Orion in 2019, which was a dramatic turnaround, the daily percentage for the Sawant campaign was around 59% at the top until the very end of that run, when you started to get down to a very small, just the latest of voters. And that's where her campaign finally kind of penetrated that 60% mark. But this is a weird election. It's December, and we're talking about a vote that just comes after November. As big general, we've got a ground team that was dedicated to what they said would be the largest get out the vote effort that the city's ever seen. And so, while it looks unlikely, it's not impossible, and the math still works at this point. Now, at 4:00 today, the math may not work anymore. We're going to get a drop something around, make sure I've got the numbers right here. Let me check. About 6,000 more will be counted this afternoon around 4 p.m. and drop. And, that's going to give us a really clear picture of what to expect next. But it's possible that we still won't know. And then after the 6,000 are counted and announced today, King County election says there's about 2,800 more ballots that will come in subsequent counts. hopefully for my sake and for everybody who's really worried about this, that it comes soon so we can kind of get some closure and understand what's happening next. But yeah, it's shaping up to be a nail biter, and will be really interesting to watch play out. The Sawant camp is keeping a positive face on all this. The recall side has been relatively quiet. They've quit answering phones from a lot of reporters. I saw that they talked to the Seattle Times, but they didn't talk to the stranger. The campaign manager is no longer answering my calls, so I'm not sure exactly what I did to lose my connection with that campaign. But at this point, no one's declaring victory. Everyone's watching the numbers, and we have some math to do really at this point. The votes are in, and the challenges and those kind of things that will come on ballots. That ground game is probably also gearing up behind the scenes, and will be interesting to also watch play out.
Oh my goodness. I mean, my main question, because again, the district, it is part of my life, right? I mean, it really is. But I'm not a current resident in District 3. And so I'm wondering, how educated were all of the voters on this issue? I feel like what they were actually voting on was some real nuance that may not be easy to understand either. And so do you feel like it maybe they had enough information, or did it come down to, hey, folks that voted for Egan in the beginning were just saying, yeah, we just don't want. So what do you think it really ended up boiling down to, Justin? Because this was very unique in nature in terms of the recall itself.
Yes, the recall vote clearly in day-to-day discussion boiled down for many people to a discussion of Sawant's political style and her abrasiveness, some say, and her very independent nature on the council. And in some ways, this is a vote on that for many voters. For others, this is a vote about someone who's a champion of tenants and renters, going up in battle against developers who weighed in with a lot of money to help fight for the yes side with things like TV ads and those kinds of things. So yeah, as far as what folks were actually voting on in this, how many of them were actually concerned about the 3 charges that are included in the ballot? Some of them are. You can also look at this as a real big question around the protests and the First Amendment. The recall is seen by some as a punishment for Sawant's support of Black Lives Matter protests, her actions to involve herself and organize protests and be part of a march that ended up inside of City Hall when it was locked down under COVID-19 restrictions, or the march to Mayor Durkin's house and her speech there. Those are the kinds of things that also were on some voters' minds. So, how educated everybody is about the actual charges, well, they're there in the ballot. But if you read even the no statement from the recall campaign, their fight, even in the no statement, wasn't really so much about those charges. It was about things like casting this as a right-wing attempt to remove a progressive socialist from power. And so, it comes down to the maybe a cliche about politics and the personal, but, I'm not going to say that people were uneducated. I don't about this. I think people who voted did have very personal reasons for the vote. And that's what it came down to and what they were thinking about as they cast their ballots. Some casted them really early, so they had their mind made up, and some waited till 8 o'clock because they were busy. And some may have waited to 8 o'clock because, they were weighing all of these factors and trying to make up their mind.
Wow. I mean, there's so many different things at play here. And I guess now we have to wait for these votes to be counted. But let's play it out a little bit. I mean, if by chance Sawant loses her seat, I know that then the council has to appoint someone to fill the seat. And then at the next election, that person could actually do a campaign if they wanted to stay in the seat, but it opens it back up. What are we looking at right now, Justin, with regard to the work that the council has to do to maybe get prepared to be ready to appoint someone in case Sawant does lose her seat?
Yes, it's too early on one hand, and on the other hand, it is time to start making plans. And so there is discussion about the specifics of what comes next. The general of what comes next is that if the yes vote prevails, the official certification needs to happen, and that would come later this month. And then the council would move to appoint a replacement. Now they're saying that likely doesn't happen until the new year, and I believe that would happen, I think, with the new council members seated. So everyone who was elected in November would be part of the new body to make that decision. The appointee that's eventually selected, that takes a couple weeks to play out and have the final approval on council. And then yes, they would have the opportunity to again run for the seat. They have to running next November, and so District 3 then will have yet another election for this seat, and then that person's term would run out when Sawant's would have in 2023, leaving District 3 in position to have another choice for the seat. So it's going to be a very embattled position. I would guess that any kind of replacement, again, this is it's early to start to speculate on specifics, though I have seen some reporting on that. It's interesting to see who the names are, but it's, you can start to imagine the council after this kind of fight for this position, looking for a candidate probably that's going to be pretty middle of the road, pretty centrist, a much calmer kind of political experience, just because of the turmoil that's around the seat. I don't know who that person is, and it is brought up a lot that Sawant, if she chose, she could run for the seat again later. She's not prohibited from that, and so that could be another story that we see play out over the next year if this all plays out with the yes vote coming out on top.
My goodness, Justin, there's so much here. And, honestly, I think it's important for all of us to be informed and engaged, even if we live outside of District 3, because we're watching the civic process play out right before our eyes. And this is why we talk so heavily about the importance of, being an educated voter and being a person that actually participates in the civic engagement process. When they call on you as a resident, it's then on you to say, look, I'm going to actually make sure my voice is counted and heard. Now, something you said earlier that really struck me was, let's say that if I was in District 3 and my signature or something was challenged, do those people actually get identification knowing that their stuff was challenged? Do they get some type of notice saying, hey, your vote didn't count? Or is it really on the voter to stay engaged and informed in that process to ensure their vote got counted?
So voters should be notified. You'll probably remember when you're voting that you may have added information on the ballot, or with either a phone number or email address, which you can be contacted at. The problem is that sometimes the same folks that have messy signatures or incomplete signatures or forget a signature may have also left that part out or messed it up in a way that makes it hard to contact. So there is a notification process, but you also can take it into your own hands and take a look. And that's another way to make sure that your vote counts, because as for, they always say, well, your vote's super important. And, you see thousands of votes for separating the race, and it's, okay, well, really one vote didn't seem that important. But this time it really is possibly the closest of margins that we're looking at. And so this is a really important time for that next step to happen. I get the feeling, given the ground game involved with this political fight, that the folks that have their ballots challenged are going to get plenty of notice, not only from the elections officials, but probably from the campaigns, making sure that this is all cleaned up and everyone had a chance to get their vote in, because it really does matter.
Yeah, at this point, it's so close, and I appreciate you and all of your expertise around this. I mean, this is something that I think is really been enlightening for me to watch play out. We've been talking about the progressive nature of our city in general, and we also talk about the history of it not being so progressive, right? Like, nationally known, it may seem as though, hey, Seattle has, all this progressive nature about it, but when we really boil it down, we actually see that there's a whole litany of those that are more conservative, those that are, like you said, maybe more centrist, that are not really for a lot of these movements. And even though I think nationally, a lot of people saw what we did during the protest movement after George Floyd's murder around the CHOP era and all of that, that it really showcases there's a spirit here of that resistance and of pressing forward and pushing for change and a progressive mindset. But again, it boils down to some of the votes. And I think even in this recent local election, we kind of saw how it played out as well, when we have, people that were on the ballot that were really progressive and pushing for new ways of thinking, reimagining systems of change and policy. And you had people saying, wait, I'm not sure if I want to go there yet. And so I think that overall, this city has a lot to learn from what's just, transpired recently. And then you go back to the legislative session and we had this amazing police package that passed. So it's really interesting, Justin, because I think as Washington State in general, and specifically Western Washington, when we talk about King County, there's a lot of different energy and characteristics that are at play here. It's not enough to be able to boil it down to just one or the other. There is a real mix here. And so I think these numbers with this vote really showcase that mix.
For sure. And it's important to also remember that Shama Sawant did not become the second most well-known socialist in America by being an easy vote. She pushes the envelope. She has achieved everything she has in the city and in the country and in the world by being a edge seeker, someone who pushes things to their boundaries and often beyond, even in decorum, sometimes in chambers, because of her fight and her belief in what she does. I mean, I've covered her now for a decade, and no matter how irritated I can get sometimes trying to deal with her office or deal directly with her, because she can be a real challenge for a journalist. She's extremely just on message and sometimes a tough interview. But the respect that I have for her belief, I've never ever. I hear people say things like, "Oh, that she's just trying to profit off of being a socialist," which is a funny concept anyway. But the respect that I have for her fight and her belief in what she's doing, that runs really deep. And if that's journalistic bias, come get me. Sorry, everybody. When I meet somebody and I believe in what they're saying and I listen to them and I know that they can't help but do what they're doing because that's what they want and what they believe in. That's the kind of thing that it registers, and I'll always have that respect for everything she's done in that regard. I understand why she's a challenge to people, but you can see how she got here and how she's been so successful.
Yeah, I think for maybe for those that support her, I feel like I've spoken more to folks that have supported her than those that haven't. So I know that there's I probably am not as informed on the other side, but it's really interesting because people got really excited that somebody was pushing for progress and change in that bold way, right? And so I know that when I think about the Black community, hey, we're not a monolith, so there were some that really support Sawant's efforts and others that really don't. And ultimately, I think it's interesting to see how all of this is played out, because when you talk about somebody that said, look, this is what I'm going to be about, what you see is what you get, I do think Shama Sawant really represents that in her own right. And ultimately, it for me, again, the interesting is the word of the day as this information is coming out, Justin, because I think so many of Seattleites may have just assumed also too that it was going to go one way or the other. And so it coming down to this nail biter really is showcasing, I think, again, the characteristics of the city and the district in particular. And it looks like those district voters are going to have several other things if it plays out the way that it looks like it is right now in terms of the way the numbers are going. You just talked about, okay, they'll have somebody who's appointed, who knows who that may be. A lot of work down the pike for the council and for others in the district to try to make sure that appointee, if it comes down to that, is really representative of the issues that they want to see. And, it's one of those things where when you have the opportunity to vote for someone, you get to see everything they're about, right? You get to hear it on their campaign trail. You get to see it in the way that they move. But it is very different for the council to be having some maybe community meetings or trying to figure out, okay, what is our short list of people that we can possibly appoint to this position? It's very interesting to see all this play out. And honestly, I'm learning so much about our democratic process through this vote in and of itself. And so again, just as somebody who's kind of watching it play out, very connected because of my role here at Converge, but also because of my history in District 3, this is something that I think is so unique. And I wonder how many times now I'm sitting up thinking, how many times across the country has it come down to something like this? And it's interesting because this is why it's so important for people to be engaged.
For sure. And I tend to be very Capitol Hill centric, of course. That's all I cover really in the Central District and is my beat. But I think everyone or many people would agree with me that D3 is a good example of kind of the future or the trends that we see in the city, and that it's probably some of the things we're seeing here in this vote and in District 3's politics are more likely to be the kind of things that we see kind of spread into the city as a whole. Now, some people probably right now are bristling and going, "Oh my God, no way!" But watch out, Ballard, Capitol Hill and Central District is a lot of young people here. They move out. They move into the rest of the city if they don't leave and go to San Francisco or something like that. And urbanists are born here. Progressives are born here often. And in the apartments of Capitol Hill, they kind of grow up and become satellites. And I do think that's why this vote goes kind of beyond Shama Sawant and beyond District 3 as far as the city's concerned. There are some things to learn, I'm going to assume. I have enough just counting up the ballots at this point and trying to keep track of the race that I'm not going to try and make too many big guesses and assumptions around the city, other than to say that I do think that this is part of the fabric of how Seattle is growing and shaping its leaders, it bears watching, and I am glad it has as much attention as it does.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin, thank you so much again. I just can't thank you enough because you really provided such a great breakdown of where we are right now. Lots more to be discussed here as we see these numbers come in. You're talking about 4 p.m., possibly a huge dump of numbers that may really tell even more about this story, give us more details. Justin, appreciate this, man. And I'm glad that you and I were able to just talk a little bit more about it, because I, even in this conversation, have learned so much. So much appreciated, Justin.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a great opportunity to share our work and to make sure that we're part of such a really important story in the district. And like you, I'm really interested to see what comes next.
Well, as always, we got to make sure people know where they can find all the stories coming out of Capitol Hill Seattle blog. Where can they find more and read up on your coverage of this story and others?
Yep, stop by every day at capitolhillseattle.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at jseattle.
Right on, Jay Seattle. Well, thanks so much again. And, we'll be in touch. And I appreciate you stepping up for Big O in his absence. I remember the last time in our old studio, you promised me, hey, you make the call, I'll come through. I may not be able to fill the seat, but I'm going to do what I can. You did it well today, my friend.
I'm always ready to pinch hit for the Big O.
Right on. You guys stay tuned after this short break. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences.
Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
Hey guys, Besa Gordon here, and before heading to Belize, Trey Holiday and I had to make sure we linked up with our good friends over at Market Street Shoes to, of course, grab a few things for the trip. From bags to socks, shoes, sunglasses, earrings, and more. Before going on any trip, make sure you stop at Market Street Shoes. Trust me, you'll find just what you need to make your trip not only enjoyable, but fashionable.
Pacific Northwest Ballet is thrilled to be back on stage with your favorite holiday tradition, the Nutcracker. Brighten your holidays with this timeless tale, performed by PNB's incredible company of dancers to the live magic of the PNB Orchestra, playing Tchaikovsky's classic score. Treat your loved ones to the Nutcracker at Seattle Center's McCaw Hall. Tickets and health and safety information at pnb.org.
From Lincoln Center Theater that brought you The King and I and South Pacific comes a revival of the most perfect musical of all time, My Fair Lady.
Playing the Paramount Theater December 28th to January 2nd. Tickets at stgpresents.org.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Morning Update Show. What an amazing in-depth discussion I was just able to have with Justin Carter of Capitol Hill Seattle blog. Always appreciate him bringing his expertise and his journalistic eye right here to the Morning Update Show. And for those of you out there in District 3, it was a heavy night for you all last night as that vote was being counted. You had to put that vote in the ballot by 8 p.m. And hey, as he said, we're going to see these numbers roll in and they're going to tell the final story themselves. But always want to thank you guys for being with me today. I want to give you guys another example, another opportunity to hear about something amazing that's happening with our good friends at the waterfront over at Pier 62 on the 11th and the 12th. They will be having their soul market. We'll put it up there. Amazing opportunity for you to do some holiday shopping with some amazing vendors, local vendors, Black-owned vendors right there at Pier 62. I know so many folks. I've been getting calls. Hey, I'm going to be there. Hey, I'm going to be there. So shout out to all of you vendors that are taking the time to be out there during this holiday season to ensure that people are aware of your business. Ideas start at home, but it's not until you open up those ideas, actualize those ideas, that others get to participate, get to support you, and become real amazing customers and patrons of your business. So I always want to give a shout out to the vendors. I know how tough it is to be out at these kinds of outside markets throughout the day. You know, you're lugging all of your materials down there. You got to set up your tables, all of that. Some of you may have your tents up. So I know that it's a full setup, but I really want our audience to be there. If you guys are looking to do some holiday shopping, take your family and friends down there and support this amazing event that's being put on by Friends at the Waterfront. They promise to keep opportunities right there at Pier 62 open to the community by doing a diverse plethora of different events that really bring people into it. And because it's people that are represented of your ethnicity, your culture, and they're doing such a fine job of that. So shout out to you guys at Friends at the Waterfront for staying true to your mission to make sure that people feel welcome right there at the pier. One of the things they said to us was, hey, this is your pier, and we want people to feel that. And doing events like this actually help to make that happen. So shout out to everybody who's involved to make this soul market a thing. I know Africa Town was heavily involved because we've been doing events. I mean, the last few years, you've seen it. And for those of you that know Seattle well and have been here for many years, you guys have been seeing Moja Fest as one of the largest Black-led, Black-ran festivals in the Pacific Northwest. And there's always hundreds of vendors that come out to that. And we've been seeing it in Jimi Hendrix Park over the last couple of years, now with Juneteenth and Emoja Day. So there's so many amazing events that happen. And I've been able and had the pleasure of really connecting with a lot of these business owners out there. People are always asking me, man, where did you find that? Where did you buy that? Man, our local vendors are on deck. So if you guys are looking for some unique gifts, another way to, bring money into Black community by supporting these Black vendors and other vendors that'll be out there, please bring your friends and family down to the Soul Market. 11th and 12th, you guys have the opportunity to get to know some of these businesses and get to know some of these vendors. I recently shared an experience where, I bought a candle from a vendor at one of our events, and the wick of the candle literally did not work, and there was way more than half of the candle left, and it fell into the wax, and it was a wooden wick, and it was hard to get out of the wax. I was able to find this vendor on Instagram, sent her a message. I sent her a photo of the candle just saying, hey, I really love this candle, but unfortunately I'm not able to use it anymore, and I just wanted you to know. I wanted this vendor to be aware, because that's something that you can do, is open up that line of communication, connect, and actually build relationship. And she was so gracious for me to even share that experience with her. She said, oh my gosh, thank you so much for letting me know about this. I've actually now changed and no longer use wooden wicks. And she said, I have a whole new system, and I want to send you some new candles free of charge. And she did that with a handwritten note saying that she really appreciated me reaching out. And to me, this is exactly what all of us have the opportunity to create around relationship building with our local vendors. It goes beyond shopping at a corporate space. Many of us like our, corporate brands and all of that. But when you actualize a relationship with a local vendor, if something is going on with their product, if something is defective, they actually will reach back out to you and say, nah, I need to make that right. They understand the value of these relationships. And so I just wanted to share that as we talk about Soul Market. And honestly, I'm sad. I'll be out of town, so I'm going to miss it. But I really hope that you guys enjoy Soul Market. I know that I'm going to be trying to send some family down there to make some purchases on my behalf, because I know that there's going to be some amazing gifts out there and some amazing products and services. So please check out Soul Market. Also, Omari and I, tomorrow for Thursday's show, we're able to sit down with all of the people at Build the Beach for Us, by us. Once again, they're coming to the Morning Update show to give us an update about where they are right now in the project. We were able to talk to Darling Nava, who is their Wimby specialist. And for those of you that follow the Morning Update show, you guys know that we've been very intentional about building these relationships with Lighted Construction and all of those who are involved at the Build the Beach for Us, by us, the redevelopment of Rainier Beach High School. There is some amazing work that they're doing, and the intentionality and the genuine nature that they've been bringing to this. I'm so glad that we're able to sit down again with them. So stay tuned tomorrow at 11 a.m. That's going to be there for you guys. And then Friday, G Prez is taking over Feel Good Friday right here on Converge Media. He will be sitting down with some of the vendors at the Soul Market. He'll also be there. I think, we got Black Santa who's going to be in the building. You guys, Friday is going to be lit. So the next 2 episodes coming for you right here on Converge Media for the Morning Update show and Feel Good Friday are going to be jam-packed with some great guests and some great information. Thanks so much for being with me on this Wednesday. And until, I guess, tomorrow at 11 a.m., peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has facing the rising sun of a new day.